Welcome to the Polaris Connection, your podcast that connects parents of autistic children with purpose. I am your host, Brad Broyles, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Nathan Palmer.
Brad, seriously, thanks for inviting me. I am so happy to be here.
I'm so glad to have you as well. You did such a great job on your last podcast that I decided you should be the co-host.
You know, I feel like I've finally arrived. Seriously, like this has been something I've been looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you're here, and we're also here. This is a part one series with Sarah Miller.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Sarah Miller is the Director of Occupational Therapy at Polaris and Starlight Behavior Academy, longtime OT, and passionate advocate for connection and co-regulation in play with over a decade of experience and a heart for kids and families. Sarah shares what drives her work, how nature and felt safety are changing the OT world, and why collaboration is the key to thriving. Let's dive in. Again, Sarah, welcome to the show. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, awesome. You just joined the Polaris Academy family. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so I have been an OT for, like you said, over 10 years. I worked in Gilbert Public Schools for the majority of my career. I started there as a new grad, and I've done a lot of home health and clinic-based work as well. So I'm excited to bring OT to Polaris and kind of start a whole new journey of what OT can look like in the school-based setting and how we can merge therapy and school together. And it's very exciting, and it's been really fun.
Well, wonderful. We're glad that you're part of the team. Some of our parents out there really don't understand or maybe have questions. What is occupational therapy?
Yeah, so occupational therapy is one of those professions that we had a whole course in grad school on how to explain what OT is. You had to write a elevator pitch of what OT is and then a full-on paper of what OT is. So it's really a holistic profession. It's very client-centered. We help people of all ages, and the whole purpose for OT is to meaningfully participate in activities or occupations in your daily life. So anything you need to do, anything you want to do, anything you have to do, OTs kind of address that. So we address physical, emotional, cognitive, and sensory needs across the lifespan. So newborn to end-of-life care. It's a pretty cool profession. I always say the purpose of an OT is to help align your mind, your body, and your spirit as much as possible.
Ooh, I like that. So say that again. You align your mind, body, and spirit. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Now, give us some examples of what would be an occupational therapy like. You know, what would you do as an occupational therapist? Like what are your main goals?
In the school setting, the main goal is to empower children, look at their strengths, see where they're thriving, see where their abilities are, and to try to improve their access to their curriculum. So I do a lot of accommodations and modifications in the school setting, giving kids sensory diets, giving kids access to alternative technologies or alternative ways to participate in their curriculum. Getting them more independent in the school setting. Mm-hmm. In the clinic and home-based setting, of course, it's all insurance-based, a little bit more insurance-based, so it has to be more medically necessary. So in the home setting or clinic setting, we do a lot of self-care, a lot of daily living skills, which is like dressing, bathing, brushing teeth, toileting, things like that. So...
Wow. Well, and Nathan, if I remember correctly, when Polaris Academy got started, occupational therapy was a big part that we wanted to bring. Why was that so important?
That's a great question, Brad. In fact, I'm listening to Sarah's description of occupational therapy, and I think that's the first time I've ever heard it defined what it actually is.
I told you.
No joke. So, like, my son got occupational therapy, and people would ask, "What's that?" I'm like, it's this other therapy he gets. And all I knew, like, fine motor and kind of functional support. But if you'd asked me to define it, I didn't know. But when we built Polaris and when I'm doing these tours, all I can remember, like Sarah, I'd go through these zones like our culinary lab and our STEM and our intentional play gym. And I would just say, and these are incorporating heavy OT supports. And I just intuitively thought that's where it would occur, not really fully understanding what it was. And so I can't tell you how excited I am Sarah's here, because it's finally like bringing purpose to the vision and hope of what we want for these kids.
Yeah, for sure. It's in the autistic world, OT can be really beneficial in understanding a child's sensory profile and helping with that, like we talked about, that felt safety and that regulation piece that is so important for the foundation of learning. For most autistic individuals, sensory processing is a challenge. So OTs are well versed in the neurological processes of sensory and how we can help empower the child to know their own nervous system, know their own needs in that regard. So that is a huge piece that a lot of times that's where parents see the value of OT for their autistic kid.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. You bring up this felt safety. And I'm sorry, I'm newer
That's
to occupational therapy. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask them some basic questions real fast. Felt safety, what is that?
So basically, we all have a nervous system, right? We all have a brain that works. You know, the intention of a brain, if we think about Neanderthals or way back when, our brain wants to keep us safe, right? That's kind of a part of our brain functioning. So felt safety is basically another term for when you are feeling safe and when you have access to your thinking brain. So if you think about when you're in your most calm, relaxed, comfortable state where you can be creative, where you can be playful, where you can be joyful, that is you being in a place of felt safety.
So is that kind of like getting out of that reactive state and more into a creative state?
Yeah, so it's moving from that protective brain state into the state of safety.
So do you offer these services for like couples therapies too, for people that No, I'm just seriously, I'm listening and I'm going, this is a skill that I think extends beyond even just kids on the spectrum.
Absolutely.
And I remember when we first kind of talked, one of the things I asked you was, if you were to apply OT without the restrictions of insurance, without the restrictions of regulation, and just apply the skill set, what would that look like? And are you open to being creative with it? And
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of what has impacted my own practice is I was trained in this curriculum called Powerfully You, which is a self-regulation, social-emotional learning curriculum developed by a couple OTs over on the East Coast. And the whole curriculum is basically a body sensing, body awareness process where you start with the musculoskeletal system and then you go into like sensory, like taste, smell, all those things. And then it goes into interoceptive, which is like your internal sensory signals, like do I have to go to the bathroom? Am I thirsty? Those types of things. And then it kind of goes beyond that into identifying where your activation is what they call it, and where you're basically, are you elevated or not elevated or somewhere in the middle? And are you making a match for the situation? So that's kind of a very brief overview of how that curriculum works. But what I found when I started doing it in my classrooms was that it was so beneficial for the teachers, and it was beneficial for me personally as well.
I think it'd be beneficial for the parents.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Because it's just kind of you're starting to identify when you do get escalated, when you do get frustrated, when your brain is tipping towards that protective mode, and ways to bring you back to that level of felt safety. So connection is number one, how you can move back into that place of felt safety. And for kids, it's through play. So that tips the brain back into that safe mode, to that thinking brain. And so I play with the kids all the time, and it's a joy.
So, one thing that you're very good is you're aware of your situations and when you feel disconnected. How can you get, I guess, as you're speaking about this and you're like, okay, you need to like realign or reconnect or whatnot, how can you be self-aware of when does that make sense? Like like I'm disoriented, I don't feel good.
It's
like,
a challenge.
Because sometimes like I feel like in life we just go for it.
Right. It's a challenge. And one of the things that the curriculum kind of goes through too is it talks about your body battery. So there's 4 things that charge your body battery. One is sleep, which is often next to impossible to control. One is movement, so we can get up and move whenever, and I do that with the kids all the time. I see, some disconnection, and our kids naturally do this through their stimming. So we see a lot of kids that pace, we see a lot of kids that flap, and they're naturally seeking that movement. They're naturally going for that. It's a nervous system coping mechanism, I guess is how I would describe it. So sleep, movement, nutrition, so healthy eating, getting a well-balanced diet, which is often difficult for autistic kids, and then positive and safe connections. So connections with other people, connections with their peers, and that's the beauty of Polaris is that's kind of their number one mission is to provide a positive, safe environment for the kiddos. So,
and what do you call these 4?
That's their body battery charging activities.
But so it's a body battery. I love that activity.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And I
know nobody can see me, but I'm writing notes as you're talking, Sarah, because this is so fascinating.
It really is.
And if everyone that's listening, please take out a piece of paper and a pen. You might have to go back and re-listen to this because Sarah, you're talking and I just can't stop writing.
Yeah, it's been life-changing, for a lot of people have just seen how much that impacts their ability. If you're having a hard time with sleeping or nutrition, or even if you're having negative connections with people, or you're having, you're fighting. I say to the kids, you're fighting with your friends at recess, you're not having that positive, safe connection. It definitely impacts your ability to then regulate. It impacts your ability to be, to have access to that thinking brain. So it's a lot, but it's also just exciting because it's something that is so fun to teach to little kids because they soak it in and they have all kinds of things to say about it. And it's been so much fun for me to do this. And it's something as an OT, you're very holistic. You have all of these that as an OT, you're looking at all of those things. You're looking at nutrition, you're looking at sleep, you're looking at movement and a child's motor planning and all of that stuff. You're looking at you're looking at the environmental context and if they have safe connections with people. But to have it, kind of spelled out in a curriculum like that has been really helpful for me to kind of explain it to other people.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I wish everybody was here to see your love and your passion for occupational therapy. Like everybody, just so you know, Sarah is beaming. She's smiling from ear to ear as she's explaining this. And my hand is hurting because I'm writing so much. So,
well, I think it's why we hired her. I mean, there's something to be said about being a technician in your craft and somebody that's really an artist. Right?
Yeah.
And so being able to create and flow with that I think was the thing that pulled us to you. So
thank you.
To echo Brad, thank you for your dedication to it. It's been awesome to watch.
Thank you.
So then sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I see occupational therapy and I have a master's of science in occupational therapy. It's like the perfect career. It's like the blend of science and art. So it's very creative. It's very, holistic in that way. And it's also science-based and evidence-based. And, I know the body and all of I did cadaver labs and things like that and the neurological processes, but I also, did leather working and painting and clay work. It's just so fun. I love OT.
Well, can I ask something on that real quick, Brad?
Yeah.
So, Sarah, when we met, and this has been something I've heard a long time in the autism community, that there's the ABA method or approach, and then there's the OT, and they're kind of talked about these different things.
Yes.
And here, we're kind of asking you to not just blend in with academics, but also with ABA where everybody just plays nice. So like, what's the core difference, do you think, between ABA and OT, and do they fit together?
Yeah, so that is a challenge and a question. And my own journey of my career in OT, I started my own LLC about a little over a year ago. And that was my kind of mission, was to reach out to these ABA clinics because ABA has been shifting. I see what they're trying to do now, and I said to Brad or Aaron, someone the other day, that I feel like if you think about PDA as OT and ABA as traditional ABA, that's kind of what I see as where I fit into Polaris, because Polaris is trying really hard to use that PDA model, that felt safety, the regulated classroom, everything you guys are doing is what OT does. So, yeah, it's definitely in the OT world, there's definitely I wouldn't say totally negative connotation of ABA, but there's definitely contention. There's definitely, we have different thought processes.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
You explained that to me a while ago. Again, I'm newer to this journey. You explained that a while ago, and I was like, really? They don't
necessarily
I don't want to say they don't like each other,
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, I have my stuff, and my stuff's way better than your stuff.
Yeah. And I think there's two different type of people sort of when it comes to that. Like, I talked to Rachel about this because I'm like, I hate data. I'm not a data person. I'm like, where's the data on like a child's mental health, well-being? Like, I can't collect data on that. And she loves data. So it's like, it's almost like just that basic like foundation of, I know in the ABA schooling, they do a lot on data and data collection, and in the OT schooling, I don't even know, did I have any classes on data collection?
Well, because you're so used to
Probably.
play.
It's
play is a
play-based.
huge
It's
part
very,
of OT.
yeah.
So when you're out playing with a child or a person, like, you're like, I'm not here to collect data.
No.
I'm here to have a little bit of fun and obviously blend therapy with it.
Right. So I think that's kind of the core difference. Yeah, and I think that there's a just shift in the ABA world, and I think a lot of it kind of stems from insurance, and insurance covers 40 hours of ABA therapy a week, which is awesome for a family that's struggling, but I struggle to get 2 hours of outside OT to be approved by.
Why is that? That's, because it's crazy.
I
I mean,
don't know.
obviously, we need ABA therapy. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so listen,
important.
let me bring a parent side to this, right? Because, I've got a boy in the spectrum. That's what started this whole thing. It is incredibly frustrating to try to figure out what is the right thing that my kid needs, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things out there. You hear the good about the ABA, the bad, the good of the OT, the bad. And then you hear from those providers, well, mine's the right way, or no, mine's the right way. You should do it. It's got to be data-driven. No, it's got to be personal.
Yeah.
And it's
Do you get that from like the OT and the ABA kind of arguing, not so much argument like, hey, but my stuff's better than your stuff type thing?
It's not so much that as it is they think there's a better way, or
Right.
they're dedicated to their craft because they think this is the right way. This is the one that gets results.
Yeah.
And so the worry I had, Brad, 2 years ago when we started this thing, was, can these things really come together? I mean, blending academics and therapies, it was never just teaching and ABA. It was, I wanted all the therapeutic
Right.
supports blended with academics. And it was this question, it was hard enough getting the teachers to accept that there's these outside professionals that can also do something for these kids, let alone the independent therapists working with each other. And so, Sarah, we asked that really early on, like, hey, do you think we can collaborate? Because one, we do things different. We're not stuck
Yeah.
by insurance, which I think allows us to open and collaborate in these
Yeah,
new ways.
that's a huge reason I said yes to Polaris, is because you guys hired me as a school-based OT, which is unheard of. Like, I've applied to other places and they want me to bill insurance, and which is fine, but it's just not, it doesn't give me the freedom.
It's like handcuffs.
Yeah. And I think in my experience, OTs tend to be softer people, and they don't advocate as much for their craft, and a lot more, I don't know how to describe that, but that's what I see.
So that's like the parent side, Red. That's what I was hoping, is that we would not have to make parents choose.
Well, if I'm a parent, though, let's say if I was a parent and I had to choose, Okay, I love that we're trying not to make parents choose, but if I had to choose, how would I know that I need more ABA or I need more OT with my child?
That's what's next to impossible. And then there's the internet that's going to tell you all kinds of different
You
things.
mean Mr. YouTube dude is
Listen
Yeah.
to all the parents out there. Let me just to respond to that question. If you felt anxiety, it is a never-ending second guessing of
Yeah.
yourself every day,
I
all
think
the
that's-
time.
How do you
And
navigate this?
You
Yeah.
don't. You look
You
back
don't,
all
yeah.
the time going, did I do that right? Did I make this decision? And
I think that's parenting in general. I think parenting a child with special needs makes it 1,000 times harder. And when I'm doing an eval with a family for the first time and talking to them about OT and talking to them about, okay, I'm going to recommend this and that and how many hours a week and whatever, I just tell them, it's okay to not do this right now. Like, I love OT. I'm an advocate for OT. I think your child would benefit from OT. But, like, if you can't do this, if you can't, like, I don't do tons of extracurriculars for my kids because I just enjoy the free time with them. And it's not something that you have to feel bad if you're struggling with it. And if right now in your family, what makes sense is coming home after school and just relaxing and not rushing out the door again. And, like you can go through phases of being in therapy and not being in therapy. So that's what I tell families, because you still have to live. You still have to just be a family, and you still have to let your kid be a kid, because they deserve that too. Even if they're autistic, they deserve to be a kid.
Well, and you say something like, hey, we want you to be, I think parents, like you said, feel the pressure of, hey, I need to put my child in therapy. I need to put them with ABA or OT or whatnot. But now you're saying, hey, it's okay just to like,
Take a break.
I know this sounds weird, but just hang
right?
out.
Yeah.
Right?
I suggest playing with your kids. I suggest trying to do child-led parenting where you just say yes.
You make
and
it
it's
sound so simple,
hard.
Sarah.
Seriously, I think every hour of OT awarded to a kid on the spectrum should also be awarded for an hour for their parent for the
Yeah.
same session. Like,
I mean, it's not. And that's the frustration in the school setting as well, is I come in, I do my little 20-minute, 30-minute session, whatever, and then I'm gone, and I just pulled that kid into a room or whatever, and those strategies, those things that me and that kid did, the teacher doesn't even know what happened. And the kid can't say. They're like, oh, we just played games. It was super fun. Like, oh, well, it was, so.
So if I maybe this is a naive question, but how do I know if my play is effective with the child?
Right. I think that if you as a parent are struggling and you need support, that's where, yes, get the therapy, get the support so that you feel more confident and more comfortable. And like Nate was saying, it requires collaboration with the parents. So oftentimes insurance impacts that, right? We have therapists that have kids back to back to back to back, and they don't have time to talk to families. So that if you just ask questions, just try to be involved in the therapy session and just try to be, as much as you can, take things that are going to work for you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just like, if I'm working with so kind of two parts of my question is, one, as a parent, if I'm, you talk about play as part of occupational therapy and how, well, let me ask you this way. If I'm a parent and you're like, hey, one of the best things you can do with your child, I think with any child, on the spectrum or not,
Absolutely,
is this type of play because it helps them connect. I liked how you said this positive connection. What's kind of what's something that would be fun to do? Like, what would you recommend rather than, hey, let's just sit down and watch Star Wars? Or, is there a better
I think that
suggestion?
in the autistic world, what becomes challenging is that we judge the play. We question whether they're playing correctly, and that's just not beneficial. So allowing your child to play how they want to play and joining in with that play. So, like, for example, yesterday at Starlight, there was a little kid that was sitting at the table, and then he starts like doing his cute little happy flappy. So I start happy flapping with him, and then he goes and lays on the floor. So I go and lay on the floor with him. Like, I'm not forcing him to do what I want him to do. I'm following his lead and playing with him the way he wants to play. And that builds, that felt safety for him. It builds for me, seeing what it is he's seeking, seeing what it is he's needing, and what it is that he likes to do, so that we can build off of those strengths and build off of that process. A lot of kids on the spectrum, they line up cars or they line up toys, and that's one of the first signs of, oh, your child might be autistic. And sometimes if you really get down on their level and see what they're lining up, it's incredible. It's like in rainbow order, in alphabetical order. Like, it's amazing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
you're
but
fine.
so I'm listening, and I'm just curious, how much do you feel of what you do is technique versus intuition?
Oh gosh, I think after 10 years, it feels so intuitive. It's hard to kind of differentiate the two at this point in my career, because it does feel so intuitive, and I find myself realizing when I talk to people how my brain is thinking differently. And it's just kind of, when you're an OT, and I think any profession that works with kids, it doesn't turn off. It's there forever. It's hard. My husband's always like, you're not their OT about my own kids, because it's like, it's hard to turn off that
You might
brain.
be his OT as
Yeah,
well.
sure. Yeah. It's hard to turn off that brain. It's hard to differentiate at a certain point. It's just kind of part of who you are and what you see. And it's so holistic that you're just always thinking of these things, and I'm always wanting the people around me to feel safe, to feel connected, to feel empowered and, comfortable. That's what I want. That's what most humans want. So
Well, let's talk a little bit about these techniques. I
Yeah.
think our audience would like to learn more about it. I know I would like to. You say it so naturally that it's almost, you make it sound simple, but for somebody
Sure.
like me that processes a lot of information, I'm like, well, how does this really work? So let's jump in a little bit to felt safety.
yeah.
Okay. You've mentioned this before. You brought it up. Can you explain it a little bit simpler? What is felt safety?
So I think what we see with our kiddos, the sensory input and the environment around them tips their brain into that protective mode. So that's where the sensory piece can come in and be so important for a child, because getting a child to feel safe within their own body, when their body is signaling to them danger, when it's actually not, it shouldn't feel dangerous, like that you have to go to the bathroom, but it feels dangerous to a child. So figuring out ways to help with that sensory processing through, we call it like proprioceptive input, which is like heavy work, deep pressure. We find a lot of kids do a lot of crashing off the couch and things like that, and that is actually beneficial for them because it regulates that nervous system.
So then a child feels threatened, or they feel, dysregulated. Is that the best way to say it? They
Sure,
feel
yeah.
threatened
Yeah,
somehow,
yeah.
right? They just don't feel comfortable. So felt safety is kind of the process of helping them move past
Work
that,
through
or work
that,
through that to
yes.
get more of a positive connection.
Yes.
Okay. Or help them feel safe in their own body. So then what would be some symptoms that you would say, okay, this child is not feeling safe?
So we see elevated shoulders. We see, increased external symptoms like pacing, or we see crying. We see that escape, like trying to escape. I don't know what else. I'm trying to think of what
So
else. I
common,
would show,
yeah. So they're kind of showing by their movements, hey, I don't feel really safe right
Right.
now. Right. So then as a parent or anybody out there, once I identify that, I recognize that, what's a good approach with that child.
Yeah, it's going to be so unique and individualized for each kid. The best thing that I recommend to other staff is just get down on their level, get down on the floor with them, and reduce your words, reduce your language, reduce your
So more by action. So
yes,
you,
and that
you
and
don't,
that.
you don't. So you're not coming in and say, "Hey, calm down,
Yeah,
calm
no,
down." put
nobody
those
likes to be
shoulders
told
down."
to calm down.
No, and maybe I'm oversimplifying, Sarah, but really the more you're talking about that physical side, that emotional connection piece, like in my head, and again, I'm sure there's overlap, but really what I'm hearing is like ABA might be the focus of brain development in autistic kids, whereas OT is the heart, right?
Yeah,
one is
absolutely.
the science and
Yep.
the other is the felt. And,
Yes.
and I'm like, and that there's that interplay, like, even like in relationships, there's the logical versus the emotional, and both sides are going to say this one's better, no, that's
Right.
better, but really
Yep.
when you combine the two is when there's something
That's
magical.
when the beauty
right?
happens, right?
That is an awesome line.
And
man.
that's exactly how I see it. And I'm definitely a very emotional person, and I've come to find that as a strength. And accepting this position at Polaris has been exciting for me to learn from that, the brain, the ABA like mindset, the I love data mindset, which I think it's so different than me. And I think that's life, right? Everyone's got a different perspective on things. And I think when we collaborate, when we work together, that's where the magic happens.
Well, I like how you say that where ABA, I'm going to paraphrase, and maybe I don't want to screw up your tagline there, but ABA is more of the brain approach, where OT deals more with the heart.
Yeah.
I love that.
I would say
I
that.
think that
Yeah.
is now I can understand this a lot better. So then going back, child is having an episode, get down to their level. Explain a little bit more details on that. Like how more could I be at their level if.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you're in meltdown, you kind of just have to ride out the meltdown. A lot of what OTs work on is preventative strategies, giving access to the different sensory input, vestibular input, which is like spinning, proprioceptive, which is like that deep pressure, and tactile and visual. I mean, it kind of leads into that nature-based. OTs have been really on this nature-based train lately, which has been so fun for me because I love being
we call
outside.
you the hippies of the
The
autism
hippies,
world. I mean,
yep,
let's
we're
just
definitely-
put it out
yep.
there. That's what we.
That's me. The true me belongs in the
hippies of
forest.
autism.
And I hope I didn't offend any
No,
OTs out there. Like I say
I-
that, but like I consider my wife a hippie, honestly, and so I say that with all the endearment that I can. But truly, it brings a different dynamic.
It does. It does. And I think my experience and I've done continuing ed on nature-based OT. I think from a sensory standpoint, we get so much sensory input being outside. There's a OT that started, I'm going to blank on the name of the school, but she started a school in California, and she has an awesome book called Barefoot and Balanced, and it's about being outside with your shoes off and how beneficial that is. And I see it in my own kids. We're home this time of year in Arizona is not fun. We're
That's
pretty
August
much
right
trapped
now, so
inside.
115
It's pretty awful. But we go to the creek, they take their shoes off, they suddenly stop fighting with each other. We're suddenly having the best time ever. They can play for 5 straight hours outside with just digging in the dirt,
So
playing
you
in
can
the
tell your
water.
kid, "Hey, stop fighting, or you'll go outside
going
and
to
you're
the creek."
barefoot in the creek."
It's true. I mean, it makes a huge difference. And I mean, you think about it for yourself as an adult, how much when you turn your phone off and you get outside and you're in that sensory rich environment, you have so many different things to look at, so many different things to feel, smell, all of that is so good for your nervous system. And that's what I've been.
But how do you bring that into a school setting, though?
Right,
Like,
so-
we all can't go run outside.
That's hilarious
on like,
because I
100-acre
bring
woods.
boxes of flowers and rocks and things like that. And the other day I left a box at Starlight, and Haley was like, yeah, so somebody found this box, and I was like, oh, that must be Sarah's. It's like dead sunflowers and rocks and things like that. And it's crazy. Like, I have a kiddo
So we
that-
do a lot of work trying to clean up the space, but then you bring all this
super
stuff.
messy play. That's an OT in a nutshell, is messy play. And I try to tread lightly, though. I know some teachers are not all for it, so I try to figure out how the classroom is going to run before I bring in all the things. But it's interesting. It's like, I have a kiddo that I worked with last year, a little preschooler, just the cutest little kid. And he didn't want anything to do with me some days, or anything to do with anyone some days. And so one day I was in there and he didn't want to work with me, whatever. So I went downstairs, because in the other classroom I had 3 boxes of sticks and whatever. I don't know why I have these things, but I brought it up to the preschool, and I just opened the box and just set it down on the table. And next thing you know, he's setting up this whole like obstacle course, and he's putting the
that's
sticks
awesome.
here, and he's building little houses with the sticks. And I'm like, that's nature. That's the power of nature. Just the smells when you open that box, it just smells like you're in the forest. And just little ways like that is how I kind of bring it into the classroom setting. And, it is just fun. It's fun to start exploring that side of OT. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, you do a great job, and it's fun to see you work in that space. And it is challenging being an occupational therapist. Like, what is the biggest challenge that you see out there that you can help our parents with?
What, parents?
Yeah, sorry, we just totally shifted because you're focused on the kids, but yeah.
I know.
I was
but
thinking.
yeah.
I was
Sorry,
thinking about
just-
in the school setting. I think what's hard is we don't play as much as I would prefer, but it is a balance, though, because we're in school and we have curriculums that we want to learn. We want to learn, and I think that's the beauty of blending different worlds, because you could have a full Montessori forest-based school. That's not necessarily going to work for a kid with ADHD. Like, that's not necessarily going to work. And then you can have a very structured, academic school that's very, we do this and this and this, and very traditional in that way. But blending kind of the two is, you're going to reach more kids. You're going to be able to, because some kids are going to respond to that more unstructured, play-based kind of learning, and some kids that just stresses them out because they want the structure. They want you tell me what to do, because I can't do this without some structure. So that's where I learn so much from other professionals, because, when I do my thing, if I'm not worried about insurance, I'm not worried about, am I doing enough for the kid or whatever, we're literally listening to Baba Black Sheep 30 times and I'm getting marker drawn on my face. Like, that's when I'm like, my true, like, okay, we're just playing today. That's what's happening. And it's just different. And it's just, it's fun to kind of bring my stuff in and also learn from. That's what I love about school-based practice versus like home or clinic-based, because you just get access to so many different people and ideas. And
let me ask you something. I'm hearing all these. It's not just challenges, but honestly, all these circumstances, situations that they're unpredictable. No two situations are the same. That the techniques blend with intuition. Like, it sounds to anybody else, it might sound stressful, yet you navigate it and you seem to get this joy from it. So what drove you to go to this field? Was this inherently you, or what about it drew you to, hey, I want to be...
That's funny. I actually went to OT school because my grandfather had a stroke when I was like 10, and I went to his therapies, and it was just fascinating to me to see, this person who was this certain way have a stroke and just be like a totally different person. And then watching the therapies and him getting his speech and language back and walking again, things like that. And so I intended to work in nursing homes. Like, that was my original plan. I did my field work in a nursing home, and it was not my favorite setting. Very much insurance driven, and that's what makes it really difficult. Sure. And there's a difference between walking into a room with a adult who's been through something traumatic and really is towards the end of their life and kind of not feeling great, and then walking into a room where there's 15 kids, Miss Sarah.
Maybe
Feels a little better. Yeah, and I
good.
love working with kids. I think, I just love it. I think I just have so much fun. Kids are they just have the best perspective on life, and it's just fun.
That's amazing. Well, this is fantastic, Sarah. You've given us a lot of great information. We're going to have to wrap up of
Yeah.
our part 1 series. Our next show, we're going to do more of a deeper dive on some of these techniques
Okay.
that we would like that parents can use at home, maybe can implement in our school. More about some preventative. You talked about some preventative
Yeah.
tips and tricks. So we'll talk more about that in our next episode.
Yeah, because honestly, I mean, as a parent, Brad, I'm looking forward to the next one because that's the big question is, we hear all these things, and frankly, the autism world has made me a better dad.
Yeah.
Not
for
just
sure.
for my son on the spectrum, but for my other kids.
Absolutely.
And the parenting resources you get from these. Like, I wish it was more of a parenting resource, not just an autism resource.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, tune in next week. We're going to go over some of these tips and tricks that Nathan explained. And Sarah, you're going to be joining us. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today. That's all we have here at the Polaris Connection. Thank you and have a wonderful day.